In this tutorial, I'll walk you through step-by-step how to quickly set up your very own SAP 7.52 system in the cloud. Let's get started. The first step is to navigate to sapbwtraining.net/SAP-access. On this page, we'll walk through step-by-step exactly how to set up your very own SAP 7.52 server and demo it all live. So the first step is to sign up for an Ubuntu server that we can install SAP on. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's click this link, which will bring us to sapbwtraining.net/hosting. From this page, come on up to the Servers menu item, navigate through to the Self-Managed section, and choose the Cloud/VPS Servers option. From here, we'll be selecting the T80 configuration, which is around $24.99 a month, and it comes with 8 CPU cores, 8 gigs of RAM, and 80 gigs of solid-state hard drive space. This is the minimum configuration that we need to run SAP, so don't try to run on a less powerful machine because it will not install. Choose Buy Now. And you have the option of signing up for 12 months at a lower rate or just pay month to month. I'll probably have this server running for at least 6 months, so I'll do month to month. Come on down to the configurable options and set which location is closest to you. Mine is New York. Now we have to make sure that we use the Ubuntu server 16.04 64-bit server. Everything else looks good, so we'll click Continue. Go ahead and scroll down and fill out the new customer details, and then come to the bottom to proceed with the payment method. Because I already have an account, I'm an existing customer, so I'll just go ahead and log in. So now that I've logged in, it's populated my information, and I'll now proceed to payment. Agree to the terms and check out. You may be prompted, depending upon what kind of credit card you have, to press Next down here. All right, so if you're seeing this screen, your order has been processed, and you'll also be receiving email confirmation as well, along with your IP address in that email. You could also just click the Go to Client Area button here. Okay, so once you get to your client area, go ahead and click on the Services button. And you should only see one service here, but because I have a few active services, I'll just go ahead and locate the service that we're going to set up SAP on. And I'll click on the T80 KVM. Once we get to this screen, we now can see what our IP address is for our Ubuntu server, which will ultimately be our SAP server address. If your system doesn't say online, just give it like 10 to 15 minutes, refresh your page, and it should say online instead of offline. All right, so now that we have our IP address, we can go ahead and connect using the SSH protocol. And there's a couple of different ways we can connect to our server. Since I'm on a Mac, you can actually use the terminal application that comes pre-installed on your Mac. So come on up to the search bar and just type terminal. And that gives us this terminal window. And now in order to log into our server, we'll type SSH space root at our IP address. And obviously yours will be different because you'll be spinning up your own server. So I'll copy that IP address and paste it into the terminal. Now when I press enter, I'm prompted whether or not I want to connect. I'll type yes. And now it's asking us for our password for the user root. You'll find your root password under the additional information tab. You can try to copy and paste this into terminal, but oftentimes that might not work, and you're better off just typing this out manually. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a split screen here, holding down on the maximize button. And that way I have both side by side. I'm just going to type out this root password. Okay, good to go. I'm now logged in. And the first order of business is to reset that password so you don't have to keep typing that long string of text. So just go ahead and type PASSWD and enter a new password. Retype it and press enter. And you should be good to go. And if you're running on a Windows machine, I'll show you how to connect to your server using an application called PuTTY. All right, so here we are on a Windows machine. We'll go ahead and just open up Google Chrome. And now just pop into Google and search for download PuTTY. And now we can go to the main PuTTY page, or just click the neat little link up here that Google is suggesting to us. And depending upon whether or not you're running a 32-bit or 64-bit version of Windows, select the proper link. And in most cases, it will be the 64-bit. If your computer is, I would say anything beyond 2010, is running a 64-bit OS. So go ahead and just click that link to download the PuTTY software. Once the PuTTY software has completed downloading, just run the installer. It takes about 15 seconds. It's a very light program to install. And then you should see an icon on your desktop. If you don't, just pop into your Windows and just do a search for PuTTY. It'll pop right up. Upon clicking the PuTTY application, you'll be prompted to enter an IP address. We'll now type in that same server address right here. Making sure that the SSH radio button is selected, and press open. If you're prompted, click yes. And now instead of listing out all that code like we did on the Mac, we're just going to log in as the user root. And our root password. And from this point on, what we'll be doing in this tutorial will be identical. So whether you're using the PuTTY application on a Windows machine or the terminal application on a Mac, it'll be the same. All right, so now since we're going to be using the terminal application on the Mac to proceed, we'll go navigate to SAP bwtraining.net, SAP Access, and then scroll down to the current step that we're on. So we've already set up our Ubuntu server. We're obviously logged into it using the SSH protocol. We've changed our root password, but now we have to install some updates. In order to install the updates, we'll type sudo space app-get update. And that's going to pull the update packages for us. If for any reason you get an error or it doesn't hit all the packages, just do a sudo reboot, and that will restart your system and hopefully pull in all the packages that it left out the first time. Okay, at this point, we now have to update our host name and our hosts file. So as you can see, currently our host name is localhost. It must equal VHC-AL-NPLCI to meet SAP standards, because this SAP server is hard-coded throughout all the installation files. In order to change our host name, we'll type sudo nano etc hostname. remove all this text and type VHC AL NPL CI. Do a Control X to exit and Y to save. If we type hostname, we can see that it's still set to the old hostname, and that's because we actually have to restart the server for it to take effect. So we'll get a few things done before we actually do that restart. The next thing we're going to be doing is setting our hosts file to use our server IP address. Let's type sudo nano etc hosts. So now that we're here, we're going to be replacing this line with our IP address for our server, along with this SAP server name and this URL. So make note of your IP address and put that there. Remove any of the old IP address. Just confirm it's correct. Looks good. And now for the second part, which is this server name along with the URL. VHC AL NPL CI space VHC AL NPL CI .dummy.no domain. And just delete the extra words here. All right. So once again, the only thing I'd be customizing is the second line in this file, making sure you update to be your given IP address that comes from your cloud server. And this area right here is always going to be the same for whoever installs SAP. So the only thing you're really customizing is the IP address. Let's do a Control X, Y to save, and enter. Okay. Now in order for these settings to take effect, we'll do a sudo space reboot. That's going to boot us out of our server, and we'll attempt to log back into it once it comes back online. Okay, let's try to connect. Just press the up arrow to get your most recent connection. And we'll log back in. All right. So moving on down to step 4. Let's once again update our packages. Sudo apt-get update. And now that's complete. We'll install a couple of core applications that SAP runs on the Ubuntu server. The first one is called CSH. So type sudo apt-get install CSH. And the next one is sudo apt-get install lib aio-dev. You're prompted, so type Y to continue. Okay, so at this point, we're moving on to step 5, which is the downloading and extraction of the SAP 7.52 installation files. The first step, before we can download all these files, is to actually make a directory where we're going to store those files that we're going to download. So type cd space / mkdir space SAP 7.52, enter, and then cd space SAP 7.52, and that's going to throw us into that directory. And now we're going to be downloading the 10 RIR files. In total, it's around 10 gigabytes, so it shouldn't take too long to download because we are downloading cloud to cloud. So in order to get this kicked off, we're just going to copy and paste the first RIR file. And I'll just fast forward the video while I go through each of these. All right, so those downloads just completed. And just to verify that all 10 have been downloaded, I'll do ls to take a look at what's inside this folder. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good to go. All right, so now that we've completed the download process, we'll move on to the extraction process. So we'll need a program called rar and unrar to do this. Type out sudo apt-get install rar unrar. Okay, now that that's installed, we can begin the extraction process. And all we have to do is reference one of the files out of 10, and it's smart enough to know that they're all part of the same overall folder that we're going to extract into. So to start this, we'll type rar x SAP 7.52 _01.rar. And that kicks off the extraction process. This should run for about 10 minutes, so I'll just go ahead and fast forward the video. Okay, so once that extraction completes, you can type ls and see that we now have additional files within the SAP 7.52 folder. And these files, along with their folders, are what we'll be using to actually install SAP. So now that all the hard part is done, all we have to do is kick off our SAP installer.